Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler became one of history's most destructive leaders, showing how a modern society can be turned into a weapon. Born in 1889 in Austria, he grew up in a troubled home marked by instability and failure. In Vienna, he absorbed radical nationalism and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that shaped his worldview. World War I gave him purpose, and Germany's defeat left him searching for enemies to blame. In 1919, he joined a small political party and rose quickly through powerful speeches. After the failed beer hall putsch, he wrote Mein Kampf, outlining racial ideology and expansionist goals. When the Great Depression struck, his promises gained mass support. By 1933, he became chancellor and dismantled democracy. His racial beliefs led to the Holocaust, where over 6 million Jews and others were murdered. His invasion of Poland triggered World War II, and by 1945, Europe lay in ruins as Hitler died in his bunker. 2. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin ruled the Soviet Union through calculated terror and absolute control. Born in 1878 in Georgia, he grew up in poverty and endured an abusive childhood that shaped his secretive and ruthless nature. He joined revolutionary movements early, excelling in underground organization rather than public charisma. After Lenin's death in 1924, Stalin quietly consolidated power by placing loyal allies in key positions and isolating rivals. Once secure, he forced rapid industrialization and collectivization, causing famine across Ukraine and nearby regions. Millions died in the Holodomor as grain was seized despite starvation. Between 1936 and 1938, the Great Purge swept the nation, with executions, arrests, and widespread fear. The Gulag system expanded, condemning prisoners to brutal labor and harsh conditions. Stalin led the USSR through World War II, strengthening his image, but his rule left a legacy of suffering and repression. 3. Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong reshaped China through revolution, ambition, and catastrophic policies. Born in 1893 to a peasant family, he embraced Marxism and believed rural peasants would drive China's transformation. After years of civil war and foreign invasion, Mao's forces seized power in 1949. Early reforms improved literacy and healthcare, but he soon pushed for radical change. In 1958, he launched the Great Leap Forward, merging villages into vast communes and banning private farming. Officials exaggerated crop yields, leading the state to seize grain while citizens starved. Between 30 and 45 million people died in the resulting famine. When criticism grew, Mao initiated the Cultural Revolution in 1966, encouraging Red Guards to attack counter-revolutionaries. Schools collapsed, families were torn apart, and cultural heritage was destroyed. China descended into chaos for a decade. Mao died in 1976, leaving a nation transformed but deeply scarred. 4. Pol Pot. Pol Pot attempted one of the most extreme social experiments in history. Born in 1925, he absorbed radical communist ideas while studying in Paris. When the Khmer Rouge seized Phnom Penh in 1975, they declared Year Zero, aiming to erase modern society entirely. Cities were emptied, hospitals cleared, families separated, and religion banned. Citizens were forced into rural labor camps under armed supervision. Intellectualism became a death sentence. Speaking a foreign language or wearing glasses could lead to execution. Torture centers like Tuol Sleng extracted false confessions before killing prisoners. Mass graves, known as the killing fields, spread across Cambodia. Starvation, disease, overwork, and execution killed between 1.7 and 2 million people, nearly a quarter of the population. Vietnam invaded in 1979, ending the regime. Pol Pot fled into exile and died without facing justice, leaving behind a legacy of devastation. 5. Leopold II of Belgium. Leopold II ruled the Congo Free State as his private empire, driven by profit rather than ideology. Ascending the Belgian throne in 1865, he sought colonial power and manipulated diplomacy to gain personal control of Congo. As global demand for rubber surged, his regime imposed impossible quotas enforced by the force publique. Punishments included whippings, hostage-taking, village burnings, and the notorious practice of cutting off hands as proof of discipline. Missionaries and activists exposed the brutality, and photographs of mutilated Congolese shocked the world. Up to 10 million people died from forced labor, starvation, violence, and disease. Leopold denied responsibility while continuing to profit enormously. International pressure forced Belgium to assume control in 1908. Leopold died wealthy and unpunished, leaving behind one of the most devastating examples of colonial exploitation in modern history. 6. Ivan the Terrible. Ivan IV, known as Ivan the Terrible, was Russia's first crowned czar and a ruler whose paranoia reshaped the nation. Born in 1530, he endured a childhood marked by neglect and aristocratic power struggles. Crowned at 16, he initially introduced reforms that strengthened the state. After the death of his wife Anastasia, Ivan descended into suspicion and violence. He created the Oprichnina, a personal domain ruled by his secret police, the Oprichniki, who dressed in black and terrorized the population. The sack of Novgorod in 1570 became infamous. Thousands were tortured and executed after Ivan accused the city of treason. His volatility reached a tragic peak when he killed his own son during an argument. Ivan's reign left Russia weakened and traumatized. His terror was driven by personal fear rather than ideology, shaping the nation's future instability. 7. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, born Temujin around 1162, rose from hardship and tribal conflict to unite the Mongol clans. His military innovations, highly mobile cavalry, psychological warfare, and sophisticated intelligence networks transformed the nature of conquest. Cities that resisted Mongol rule often faced total destruction. Chroniclers described massacres across Central Asia, Persia, and Eastern Europe, with entire populations eliminated. Tens of millions may have died during Mongol expansion. Yet Genghis Khan also promoted trade, religious tolerance, and merit-based advancement, creating the largest contiguous empire in history. His brutality was strategic. Terror ensured rapid surrender and minimized prolonged resistance. His legacy remains a paradox, combining visionary leadership with overwhelming violence. The empire he built reshaped Eurasia, leaving cultural, political, and economic impacts that lasted long after his death. 8. Idi Amin. Idi Amin's rule in Uganda revealed how personal instability can devastate a nation. Born around 1925, he rose through the military and seized power in a 1971 coup. Initially popular, he soon ruled through fear and unpredictability. Amin expelled roughly 70,000 Asians from Uganda, crippling the economy. Security forces carried out mass killings of political opponents and targeted ethnic groups. Victims were tortured, executed, or disappeared, with bodies often found in rivers or roadsides. Amin cultivated theatrical propaganda, granting himself grandiose titles while secretly ordering massacres. Estimates of deaths range from 100,000 to 300,000. In 1979, Tanzanian forces invaded and overthrew him. Amin fled to Saudi Arabia, where he lived comfortably until his death. His regime became a symbol of how dictatorship can turn into personal tyranny, leaving Uganda deeply scarred. 9. Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung founded one of the world's most enduring totalitarian states. After World War II, Soviet support enabled him to consolidate control over northern Korea. He developed Juche, an ideology demanding absolute loyalty under the banner of self-reliance. Through purges, executions, and relentless propaganda, Kim eliminated rivals and reshaped society. Citizens participated in mass rallies, and portraits of the leader became mandatory in every home. Political prison camps detained entire families for perceived disloyalty. Economic mismanagement and isolation later contributed to famine that killed hundreds of thousands. Kim established a hereditary dictatorship, passing power to his son and creating a system where political authority resembled religious devotion. His rule left North Korea isolated, militarized, and defined by strict control that continues to shape the nation today. 10. Vlad the Impaler. Vlad III of Wallachia, born in 1431, became both a historical ruler and a figure of legend. Raised amid conflict between Christian Europe and the Ottoman Empire, he spent part of his youth as an Ottoman hostage, shaping his later brutality. Upon gaining power, Vlad enforced absolute control through extreme punishment. Impalement became his signature method, with victims placed on stakes where death could take hours or days. Foreign accounts describe forests of impaled bodies surrounding towns, designed to terrify enemies and citizens alike. When an Ottoman army advanced, they reportedly retreated after witnessing thousands of impaled soldiers displayed outside the capital. Vlad's cruelty served political purpose. Intimidation created order in a volatile region. Though later mythologized as Dracula, the historical Vlad used violence as a deliberate tool of state power. History's darkest figures remind us how easily power can be twisted into destruction. By understanding their rise, we learn to recognize the warning signs in our own world. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay aware, and join us next time as we continue exploring the stories that shaped humanity.